You know, Charles, a funny thing happened on the way to the World Economic Forum. Klaus Anal Schwab is going to be probed. How are you tonight?
I'm very well, thanks, Jason. Hope you're well too. Actually, it's really bad. I mean, this new person, I think his name is Brabeck, the former CEO of Nestle, is a diabolical human being. So this is not, this is not rejecting Schwabism and anal probism. This is, I think, getting rid of somebody who is too outrageous, even for the outrageous folk who run the World Economic Forum, and replace them with an even worse breed of sinister character.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, there's another story that I didn't have time to share with you, but I put out on X. Some clerk in the army, some woman, set up a charity for kids, Clinton style. There was no charity, but somehow managed to get $108 million worth of grants sent to the charity. Wow. And spent it on 30 plus homes, 80 plus vehicles, and daily purchases of upscale fashion items so outrageous that the UPS salesman or delivery guy or FedEx guy, whoever was bringing packages to her home, gave her a nickname as the Gucci Goddess because she was getting so many fancy packages. And this is what happens. And it's neat and fitting. Here it's the 25th of April today. It's 20 years ago that the Clinton Foundation ceased to exist as a lawful nonprofit corporation, effectively 20 years ago today. So for 20 years, that miserable family has been holding itself out as a do-gooder charity, conducting its business principally from New York City, where they knew even Bloomberg wouldn't go after them. And they've been doing this for 20 years. They have 2 homes in Chappaqua, 1 home in each of which is a mansion, another home in Washington, D.C. that is a big home. And then who knows what other real estate they have. They fly private. Chelsea has a gigantic apartment. Who knows what other real estate she has. She's so many unjustified jobs, which are given to her by virtue of her service in the Clinton Foundation, which doesn't exist. And then this clerk goes ahead and steals $108 million. And Klaus Schwab says, you know what? The Clintons, love to come and speak at the World Economic Forum. I'm going to run the World Economic Forum Clinton style. I'm going to have my wife buy a house with World Economic Forum money for 30 million euros. I'm going to give her another 20 to fix it up because, every 30 million euro house that I know of needs another 20 million spent on it. And then we're going to fly around the world. I'm going to direct subordinates to go to ATMs and take cash out and give it to masseuses and hookers and who knows whatever else. I mean, and nobody does anything about it. I mean, if I were Vladimir Putin, I wouldn't bomb Kyiv. I'd bomb Klaus Schwab's home. I'd go after the World Economic Forum.
Oh, Charles, sorry. I just accidentally turned off our sound thing. I think we're back. I hit a button. I'm in the hotel, so things are a little bit unusual compared to the normal setup, but we're back there. You had suggested that Russia bomb Klaus Schwab. We don't want that to happen, but it is a humorous statement. Sorry, please carry on, Charles. I actually just hit something.
Well, I mean, there has been an undeclared or maybe a declared war on nation states that I think accentuated with the fall of the Berlin Wall, when the Germans realized that the European Union could now be hijacked by Germany. And Germany and perhaps former elements formerly allied with the Nazis decided that this was a way to get back into asserting global influence, if not dominance. And so these people got bolder and bolder and bolder. Now we find ourselves, and it's mostly following scripts pumped out by the World Economic Forum. I mean, they have been, for decades been training leaders. Many of the worst today in Canada and Europe and elsewhere are World Economic Forum alumni. The policy prescriptions for a lot of these left-leaning gloom and division agendas that the left tries to sell here and has successfully sold across Europe, they all come out of the World Economic Forum. And I would go after those people. First of all, it is not a charity. There has been a lot of personal enrichment. And I would go after board members, executive, and I go after the Bilderberg Group. I go after all these societies that meet and think they can, tell us that water is no longer access to water is not a human right. Says the current guy who's taking over from Schwab, whose company Nestle owns water rights across the planet. I mean, he obviously has a conflict of interest, and it's a moronic statement. And if you go onto my Twitter feed, you'll see there's somebody who's done a lot of work on this guy, and apparently in Mali, Nestle was credibly accused of, first of all, stealing the water in the country, and then exploiting child slaves to manufacture products. I mean, this is a diabolical company, if it's true. The allegations in there, and they need to be explored. Maybe they're not true, but the allegations in this thread are astounding. And that the board would say, okay, we got a real problem with Schwab and his wife. I don't know that they've been slapping their way to prosperity, but they've been schwabbing their way to prosperity in the guise of a charity. And so what we'll do is, rather than really atone for our sins and Schwab's sins, we'll put an even worse motherfucker in charge of this thing.
So you're recommending bombing Schwabu Dhabi? Is that what I hear?
No, I mean, if you think about, the left are fond. There was some creep just arrested by the Secret Service in Trump Tower. The way the left tends to think, people like AOC and Bernie and Hillary, people like that, is they're on a higher moral plane than the rest of us. And that they, and if they agree to debate with you, it's not a debate, it's to lecture you and attempt to guide you towards the light. That's the way they think. And another element of their thinking is that when they find opponents who might be successful against them in an election, well, we better rig the election, and if we can't do that, we've got to cancel, even try to kill them. And I'm not saying you should do that. But I do think the World Economic Forum and the Bilderberg Society have done a tremendous amount of damage to the private sector workers. Some of these policies, and you have that nutcase who never even finished college, Bill Gates, now attempting to dim the sun.
That's crazy.
They're one country.
Do it.
No, but think about that for a second. We don't understand because we don't feel it, but the Earth is spinning constantly, right? And the sun is spinning, and we're all moving. How can you dim the sun's effect over one country?
Obviously,
it's a ridiculous.
It's
this from a guy who's supposedly a genius. Bill Gates is an idiot.
Yeah,
he's a dangerous idiot. And there's more reporting that there's somebody has uncovered, and I should give credit to the person, but I just don't have the person's name to hand. Again, on my Twitter feed, somebody has uncovered, and Data Republican has picked up on it, that there is a consortium. There's a consortium of 400 NGOs that it was working together under an umbrella, and that consortium is funded by George Soros and Bill Gates.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all.
This thing we've been on. Well, yeah, and then there's other reporting that John Podesta's Center for.
Charles, are you still there? You've frozen. Oh, man, I'm going to be very upset if we're having internet problems. It was working well. The show is still live. Charles?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. I'm here. Great, perfect. Please
continue. Yeah, and actually, my technology team in here yesterday checking the internet, the quality of the internet, and it's very good here. I was concerned. I've had several. Well, what shall I do?
I don't know. I think keep talking. I don't know why you would be frozen.
Well, probably because what I'm saying. But but seriously, the Center for American Progress, which we haven't gone into in depth, we haven't checked to see is it a 501c3? Is it a 501c4? Is it a paired grouping? The Center for American Progress apparently coordinated under the Biden years the transfer of $4 trillion with a T, $4 trillion to a shadowy group of NGOs.
Well,
It's outrageous.
let's take just a quick look here. Charles, what you might want to do is disconnect and reconnect. I think that will reactivate your video stream. And I'll just bring up this. We'll figure out if this is it's a 501c3. Indeed.
Oh, it is an illegitimate 501c3. Let me disconnect and come back to you, okay?
And come right back in. We'll just look. So let's see. How do we?
It'll take me a second.
Sure. 170. Yeah. B1A2. Where's 170B1A6? Yeah. See, this is what all these charities seem to be doing. They're supposed to be public charities. That allows the people who give them the money. It doesn't seem to be 170B1A6. So we'll get Charles back in here and keep looking at this. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting that more people are putting attention on this right now. This has been Charles's kind of like core argument for many, many years. And so it's good, Charles, that finally people are paying attention to what you've been talking about for so long. Hopefully we can... Whoops, you just disconnected accidentally. He'll come back in. There's all these technology problems with producing remote shows. People might have seen yesterday, I was in court, Goodman versus the Allegheny Medical Examiner. That went well, and I apologize for the technical specialness of being on the road, but it is exciting. Gotta travel around. We'll get Charles back in here in just a moment. I think he's just I know what happened. He gets disrupted because he's got it set up in a certain way on a stack of books. So I got to get him a proper tripod over there. But I hope people saw me earlier today on InfoWars. There we go. Charles is back.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
No problem. Hey, I've been doing it too, so no need to apologize. There's a lot of buttons here, Charles. It's easy to hit the wrong ones.
Okay. So it's a 1020, it's a 501c3.
Your headphones are not plugged in. Yes, it is a 501c3.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So here we can see it here. It's where do
what
I find
kind?
where do I find if it's a 170B1A6?
B1A6. It would be in Schedule A, I think.
That's
Schedule A in the beginning.
Oh, so okay, it is.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous that the Center for American Progress would be involved. Now, remember, this is a big reveal. The person who identified this does not necessarily know enough about the Clinton Foundation. When the Clinton Foundation got into trouble, they hired John, and when Bruce Lindsay had his stroke in 2011, they hired John Podesta to conduct to oversee the Simpson-Thatcher review. So John Podesta cannot say, I don't understand. He's a lawyer. He can't say, I don't understand how 170B1A6 public charities are supposed to be run. He can't say that. This is a pure corruption of the regulations involving this type of public charity. This type of public charity derives its special tax benefits, the fact that its donors used to be able to deduct a higher percentage of their income to take a deduction of a higher percentage of their income if they give money to this type of charity, because it is explicitly barred from engaging in partisan political activities. Its board must be broadly representative of the public at large. You cannot have a bunch of progressive, lobbyist, corrupt Democrat hacks controlling the flow of $4 trillion to a network of charities. It's explicitly barred. And I don't know what's in the Doyle-Moynihan lawsuit, but this should be a rider to that lawsuit. This is pure and naked corruption. Remember, that John Podesta's brother, Tony Podesta, runs a crooked lobbying operation. That Tony Podesta's wife, when Barack Obama was president, bragged that they were the real power of government. And it got to be so ridiculous there because, they were so tied in to the machinery of the Obama administration, which then became the Biden administration. So the Center of American Progress has inserted corrupt elements throughout our government. These are the same corrupt elements who are fighting Trump tooth and nail as we speak, and who stand to be not only defunded.
Look at this.
But
Tom Daschle is the chair.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. He's one
of the guys, Charles, they mailed him anthrax on 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Right. I don't wish that on anybody, but...
No, but I'm saying and then he quit. I think that's like, hey man, get on board or get underground.
Well, Daschle has always been a left-leaning kook. I mean, he's not a moderate.
No, but I'm saying I think he was against the Patriot Act, and then the anthrax started going around. So I'm saying it's thug tactics to kind of scare him, I guess.
Yeah, thug life. But yeah, so this Klaus Schwab thing and the World Economic Forum and other international charities, people need to understand that charity laws are different around the world. For example, in Sweden, and I'm not an expert on the laws of every country, but in Sweden I know that you could take a profitable business and sell it to a charity, convey it to a charity, operate the business within the charity, get tax benefits for that, and then decide 10 years later that you want to have the thing come outside the charity. So you pay off the charity. Yeah, you can do things like that in other countries. And so the United States, the left loves to say that we need to be clear-eyed, but and I hate the phrase, but I'm going to use it. We need to be clear-eyed that if you want to find corruption and fraud, we can spend time, and I've started my crusade on this, looking at General Electric and for-profit entities. You can find fraud there. I did, but in the not-for-profit world, that's where the true and the fake, the imposter charities. I mean, the nerve. There in New York, there have been, I think, repeatedly around the world, fake doctors, with no medical training at all, who take on patients and perform surgeries, including complex ones. It's fucking nuts. But that people are doing that with charities. The clerk in the Army who just got nabbed for $108 million, that person didn't come up with that idea herself. She's just
basically the cutout for somebody. It seems like you have... Oh, no, there you're back.
Yeah.
Charles, you're freezing
spotlight.
Intermittently. There we go, you're back.
I don't know what's going on, Jason. I literally had a tech person...
It's got to be the hotel. I'm sorry. Please, carry on. Charles, I just want to let everybody know, we're going to be doing our sponsor exclusive segment. What was it that I wanted to let everybody know? I forgot. Sorry.
You should ask yourself.
Yeah, it was something I was going to tell people, but it doesn't matter. Please continue. Because when you cut out, I get into my brain shifts.
No problem. So the point is, Donald Trump. I love his sacrifices on behalf of the country. Everybody makes mistakes. He's making a mistake with his meme coin that he's doing, I think.
It's already been done.
That's my view, and he'll do what he wants.
Pretty shifty, I agree.
But he really made a mistake. I think what happened after he won is the enormity of the task of actually running the country, hit him like a ton of bricks. And somebody went to him, somebody credible, said, listen, you're the president, you're going to be the president of all Americans, including the Democrats. You can't polarize this country in the first days as you're trying to put your administration together, because you won't get your key picks confirmed. You got to throw an olive branch to Hillary. And so weeks into the transition, that's what he did. We don't prosecute our political opponents in this country. That was a huge mistake, because Hillary, that is not the way she thinks. She is an evil, and it rhymes with runt. She is an awful human being, has a long history of lying, of concealing damaging facts, criminally damaging facts from prosecutors and from the public, to entrench herself and her husband and now her daughter in a position where they think they can run the world and steal as much as they want. And so she's not going to, she doesn't greet, a concession and, politeness and grace as something that should be recognized. That's weakness to her. And indeed, the spread, one of the core elements in that $4 trillion transfer of wealth from the taxpayer to NGOs and left-leaning real and imagined charities is indivisible. And indivisible is something that Hillary is very much involved with. That she doesn't believe in elections. Those are for other people. I mean, she just deserves to run the world. That's the way she thinks, based on her.
Yeah.
But based on what track record? I mean, Bernie Sanders, seriously, he probably would have been fired at Peter Luger's a long time ago. He's an angry moron
who has no like a Peter Luger's waiter, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. We would get him a Luger's or Losers. Should be smock. Bernie Loser. Yeah, Bernie Loser's Steakhouse. I mean, but he's been in. I mean, he talks about we need to urgently do this and fix this. He's part of the system. He's been part of the system for what, 30 years? How can you sit there ranting and raving or longer? We need change. We need what have you been doing for the last 30 years? That we have all these problems under your watch. Democrats controlled under Obama the executive branch, the House, and the Senate. Why didn't you fix those problems back then? It's just.
What about all their private jet travel, Charles? AOC and Bernie.
It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Do I like flying on private jets? Yes and no. In the U.S., I would. But internationally, hell no. I want to be on a big-ass plane, with a lot of staff and a consequential airline that you're not going to screw around with. But this thirst to go, I mean, what is a bartender going to do? What business does probably a shitty bartender have trying to manage the United States? The woman is a moron.
Even thinking that she could remotely approach that task shows how stupid she is. It's absurd.
And, I think the fact, I had a revelation this morning as I was preparing for this, that, I think the true split in this country is probably 75% Trump, 20, maybe 10% Antifa and the far left, and 15%, people who just can't imagine being anything other than a Democrat.
Yeah.
So
but
the
those
fact
guys
that
get
we have
pumped up with money and press and all kinds of stuff. I remembered what I wanted to tell you, Charles. Before we make our way over to the First Amendment Forum, I wanted to let people know, if they hadn't seen, I had an appearance on InfoWars earlier this morning.
Oh, great.
Harrison Smith was nice enough to invite me on. I really appreciate him doing that, and it's been very well received. A lot of people are sending me messages saying that they really enjoyed seeing it. He went over all the this Adam Schiff information. We got into talking about lawfare and the lawfare loan scam and all kinds of stuff. It was a great segment. If people haven't seen it yet, they can see it on my X feed there at JG_CSTT. And thanks again to Harrison Smith and all the people at InfoWars for bringing me on to talk about that.
Yeah, that's really nice. I don't really check who is actually following me, but I happen to notice that Alex Jones, and I think he follows you too, but he follows me.
Great.
And I actually think, you are, if not certainly an early pioneer in this whole idea of using modern technology tools to perform investigative journalism in a different and more comprehensive way. I mean, actually, it's not performed in the mainstream. That's the mainstream stuff is theater. It's a platform. Exactly. It's a platform it's captured by the advertisers.
Yeah.
And the format is irretrievably broken. I mean, nobody wants to have a segment where, let's say watermelon, where I debate Watermelon Head. That's not going to, unless it were 90 minutes, but something interrupted every 6 minutes, forget it.
Yeah, no, and he would not be able to take the heat. He's too much of a watermelon-headed pencil neck riding on the mortgage gravy train.
I'm telling you, Jason. I mean, if Hunter Biden can sell his art for, let's say he's really selling it for $10,000, whatever it worked out to be, you should be able to sell some of these art. I mean, this is fantastic. I would actually put some of this framed up in my apartment.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm going to try and work on that, Charles. You know, I've got all kinds of ideas cooking. I thought you were going to say that I was a pioneer in counter lawfare, because that's kind of true as well. But we're just about out of time here, Charles, and people are going to be able to join us in the First Amendment Forum. Something happened on the way to the First Amendment Forum. And,
okay, good.
We will be there, so people can join us. Please sponsor the show on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. Odyssey, unfortunately, cannot process payments at the moment, so new subscribers can't go on there. But people can also sponsor the show on subscribestar.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. Patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Sorry, no at in that. I'm screwing up my own advertising here, Charles. And you can also subscribe on X at JG_CSTT. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Charles, let's head over to the First Amendment Forum and we'll carry on the conversation there.
Perfect.